Hi. Perfect. I think this is working.
Great.
Awesome. We'll just hang out for another minute or two just to make sure anyone else who is lingering can get a chance to join in. I love your sweater. What are you wearing?
Thank you. It is the Soldotna crop by Caitlin Hunter.
I love your color palette. I'm
Thank you.
very much a mint person.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites too.
I am not wearing any knitwear today because I am almost 38 weeks pregnant. So
I
I have
just
limited
realized
options.
that that you must be close to your due date. I saw one of your Instagram posts that yeah, looked like you were ordering diapers and stuff.
Oh, yep. Yeah, we're in the final countdown right now. So,
So exciting.
not that I expected to go into labor before this meeting, but I'm really happy that we can still have this book club, that nothing happened.
Yeah, you never know in
Yeah,
those final days.
for sure. For sure. How is everyone else doing? I think we have a chat open. So, I mean, there's only a couple people here. So, if you want to even unmute and introduce yourselves, you're welcome to do that, or you can join in the chat and all of us know where you're joining from, if you've read the book or not. If you joined us so you can hear a little bit more from the author about the book. If you're kind of perusing, let us know. I was planning on finishing this book in November, but I just finished it last night. So
Oh,
really happy that I got through it. I really did enjoy it. So I'm excited to have this
thanks.
discussion. And that was your first book, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I was an academic researcher before this, so this was a different path for me.
Oh, very much so, I bet. I can definitely see the academic side of it as I
Yeah,
was
even though
reading.
to me this was like moving away from academic writing and everything, but yeah, it's hard to break from it entirely.
hmm I bet. Very cool. All right. Oh, okay. We got someone. It's on their TBR, currently reading the book. Awesome. I love it. I will say that in general, I don't read a lot of nonfiction, but I really like more academic nonfiction that um isn't just like memoirs or, sharing personal opinions. Like I like a little bit more robust of a nonfiction from a research standpoint. So after reading like the introduction, I was like, oh yeah, this will be the right kind of nonfiction for me. So
Oh, good. That's my kind of nonfiction too.
awesome. Okay, well, I think we've got everyone here that is going to join us. So I was kind of nervous. I like typed out questions so that I wouldn't forget. But I've got like a little introduction that I want to share. So, all right. So, we have the pleasure this evening of hearing from Nicole Nehrig. I don't, if I, am I pronouncing that right? Nehrig?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's right.
Perfect. The author of a new nonfiction titled With Her Own Hands, Women Weaving Their Stories. This book is pitched as a rich and intimate exploration of how women have used textile work to create meaningful lives from ancient mythology to our current moment. And just for everyone who's participating, we are recording this discussion and I plan to put it on my YouTube channel. So hopefully, anyone who has to dip out early or is not able to participate now will be able to go back and listen in, which is exciting. So we read this book as part of my Discord book club, the Crochet and Knitting Bookshelf. And like I said, I just finished it last night. I've been kind of whittling away at it over the past couple months, and I really enjoyed it. I found that this book was both approachable and it was academic, so it was like a really good combo for what I'm looking for in a nonfiction. And I really appreciated how much research went into this book. Though I'm sure I don't quite understand like the extent of it. I'm sure you know much more firsthand, like how much time and effort really went into all that research. But before diving into the content of your book, Nicole, could you introduce yourself briefly? And even if you want to, let us know if there's a project you're working on in the textile arts.
Sure. Lots of projects. So I'm a psychologist, clinical psychologist, and prior to writing the book, I was a VA staff psychologist and researcher developing mental health treatments for veterans dealing with depression and PTSD and interpersonal problems. And yeah, then the pandemic kind of changed things for me. I was quarantined with a 3 and a 5-year-old and trying to coordinate a full-time hospital job and get a major, nearly $1 million grant resubmitted and everything. And I just realized I don't want to do this and I don't have to do this. And it was like a real wake-up call because I don't know that I would have just let myself stop. But having this kind of forced interruption in my life kind of made me look at things and wonder, is this what I really want to be doing? And the answer was no. And I got the idea for this book, and that's what I really wanted to be doing. So, yeah, uh, I'm working on the Sephardi Vest by Gudrun Johnson. I just cast on today for the Astria Shawl by Amba O'Brien.
Mm.
And then in quilting, I'm working on two like Christmas pillowcase covers to go with a Christmas quilt that I just finished that matched the stockings that I made some years back. So I had a lot of this like kind of holiday fabric and have been finding purposes for it to decorate for Christmas.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I love how you're ending on the pillowcases. Like you got the big quilt out of the way and now you can just do the little bits.
Yeah, I had some left over. It's like, what do you do with the little bits of leftovers? It's not enough for another whole quilt, and I wanted to get the quilt out of the way, so I knew I had enough fabric for that. And so I had just enough to make two pillowcases.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing your backstory. I think a lot of us can resonate with the idea that 2020 kind of was a pivot point in a lot of our lives and kind of made us reevaluate kind of where we want to go forward as the
Yeah.
world was changing. Yeah. All right. So, in your Writer's Digest interview with Robert Lee Brewer, you shared that you were looking for stories that reflected the personal meaning of textile work for women, how it has served as a form of creative expression, an intellectual pursuit, a means of social connection, a way to have a voice and stand up for what they believed in. And for you, what personal meaning does textile work have for you in your life?
Um, oh, a lot. So, I think from the beginning, it was something that I could give to other people. Like I liked that I could make something and give something of myself to people, and I could make really personalized gifts and give things that felt more meaningful, and more affordable. At that time, I was 26 when I started knitting, so I didn't have a lot of money, and so it felt like something really special that I could give on a budget that just used my time. But my time has become increasingly valuable with young kids and a busy career and everything. And so it feels still like the most meaningful thing I can give to somebody is something that I've made. So there's that. And then it's been a metaphor for me for a lot of things. Like I really, as a psychologist, I'm interested in introspection and reflecting on where I am and what's going on with me. And I feel like knitting really has shown me a lot about what I'm needing in the moment, where I am with things. And, sometimes I'm like really stressed about my knitting and I'm channeling stress and anxiety into it. And I have like a knitting to-do list. And other times I'm much more, knitting is a place where I can relax and have kind of a different experience that I'm having in other aspects of life. But it's really like a way that I notice it's a barometer in a sense for things going on with me. And when I was in grad school, I started knitting more than ever. And I was, seeing patients for the first time and dealing with kind of the nebulous experience of being a therapist and not really knowing what I'm doing and what's happening. And knitting was this like grounding place. It was tangible. It was something that where I could see my progress, where if I made mistakes, I could fix them, that was a real counterbalance to my work as a therapist. So it's been a lot of those things for me. And during the pandemic, I was really realizing just how much it was fulfilling in me because it was something I could do for myself alongside childcare. And there's not a lot of other things you can do alongside taking care of little kids. Like I couldn't read, I couldn't write papers or, even send emails, really like you're just kind of on all the time. But knitting you can pick up and put down. I could talk to my kids while I'm knitting. I can, because I can mostly knit without looking at my knitting, I could be watching them and seeing what they're doing while I was knitting. So it was something that I could do for myself that did fulfill like creative needs, intellectual needs, that allowed me to like make something beautiful and feel a sense of purpose and accomplishment. Because, having kids and the daily care of kids is kind of like never, it's like Groundhog Day, and you don't always get such a feeling of accomplishment, but like you finish knitting a hat and you're like, like it's done.
Yes.
The work of parenthood feels
Oh yeah.
never done.
That's so interesting. It is kind of similar how like therapy work is kind of nebulous. You might not see progress. Childcare also feels that way in a lot of moments. And so having something tangible that you could do to create was able to like kind of measure your own personal growth and progress too through that. I love
Absolutely.
that. And that was something that you had mentioned in the book as well, that the textile arts were something that women could do around childcare, that they could multitask in a way that I feel like women are still known for multitasking, but in ways that like men going out and hunting or, fighting in wars or farming or whatever, they were not able to multitask in the same way that the women were able to.
Yeah, and I mean
Domestic.
they had to, right? If you're tending to kids, like that there's just kind of inherent multitasking because if you're watching kids, you have to be watching them like all the time, but then you also need to like prepare meals for them and, clean up after them and all of these things. So it's kind of built in.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, and men multitask too, probably like they herded sheep and, whittled wood or something while they sat and, watched their sheep graze and things. So, and women did that too. But yeah, it's definitely baked into what whoever's doing the child care is having to multitask.
Hmm. Whether it's just for like the nature of childcare, but also for their own like intellectual like sustainability, like in order to, still have their identity as a person, beyond just a caregiver, right?
Yeah.
It's very
And
true.
that was the real aha moment for me during the pandemic. Like I was doing this alongside childcare, and it occurred to me like, yes, textile work is something that women have done throughout history alongside childcare. And it's so fulfilling to me. I wonder how it fulfilled women in other places and times. And so that was really the impetus to write the book. And at the beginning, I didn't know that I was going to write a book. I just wanted to read about this. And I started reading everything I could and then realized that what I was looking for, these kind of individual women's stories, I wasn't finding as much of as I wanted to, like compiled in one place. And so I thought, well, I can do that.
Yeah, I love the variety of different time periods and cultures that you were able to integrate into this book. And Alicia had a really good question. I'm just going to read her comment. She says, "Hi, Nicole. I'm in the middle of the book, but I can see already that it is so well researched. I'm so glad you covered diverse people groups, cultures. I really and excuse me. I really appreciate that as a woman of color, especially since I find that the fiber arts sewing community in my state is so white. I was wondering how you research different cultures across the world."
Great question. And yes, there has been definitely a whitewashing or something of fiber arts, especially in the Western world, maybe. But of course, textile work has been done by people everywhere. It's been part of how we've survived as humans throughout history and around the world. So I was, I knew from the outset that I could not be exhaustive in this. So I kind of just picked places where there was a textile tradition that was still very alive, or where there was some really rich history to be found, places that I could get to. So remember that I got this idea in the midst of the pandemic, so I was not traveling anywhere at that time. So then it was like, okay, Iceland was my first trip. That's like a pretty unpopulated place to go. So it's a kind of place where I can go and be at a distance from people and, has a rich textile tradition. And I could kind of get around and not be uh, putting myself at too much risk with COVID. So, things like that. And then some was, just finding a person who I was really interested in and whether I visited that place or just researched and talked to them. There's an amazing woman, Olutosin Adebowale in Nigeria. And I did not go to Nigeria, but I did have a Zoom conversation and several emails and exchanges with her. Um, she shared tons of pictures with me, tons about her work, videos of her community and everything and the work she does in her community. And so I, learned a lot about her at a distance. So things like that. So it was kind of a little bit following the thread, like taking it where it led me. I'd learn about something and think, oh, that's something really interesting that I want to know about. And I have access to that. I'm able to either go there or talk to somebody there. So, yeah, it was. And then actually, also, a lot of people I talked to suggested I talk to other people and would say, oh, do you know of this person? They're doing this interesting thing. And I think they'd be interested in talking to you about their work and everything. So some of it was just kind of, getting connected to people through other people, which was really wonderful and speaks to, I think, how supportive this community can be, that we do want to connect each other and help each other learn and share about our work with other people who are excited about this subject and everything. Yeah. So, and I wish I had been able to go to like Japan earlier. I went to Japan last year, but not in time to write about it in the book. I wish I had been able to go to Nigeria in person. I wish I had been able to go to Guatemala and I mean, like so many places. But yeah, I did what I could and talked to people where I could, and I got enough material to make a book.
I love that. Um, and I think, Alicia, you're going to really enjoy chapter 7 talks more about it starts leaning into the implications of like systemic racism and like the white woman as the victim and the oppressor in a way. And so it starts touching on those types of topics, so I think that you might enjoy getting to the end of the book because I found that really interesting how the fabric of the United States is has all these, systemic racism intertwined with it.
Hmm.
So very fascinating. So I think it was interesting you said, Nicole, that you didn't get a chance to include like Japan and the topics from there in your book. I definitely feel like this book was a really broad overview of this concept as a whole. If you were to write another book or another article, what would you want to dive in deeper?
That's a good question. I definitely had ideas while I was writing the book about other books that I would want to write. One that I thought was interesting is there's a lot about like kind of gender bending and like because textile work has been in many places, not in all places, and in many times, but not in all times, women's work, um, and very associated with like female gender stereotypes and everything. And part of what kind of inculcated these stereotypes and these virtues in women um, was through textile work. So people then who did this work like there were these subversive ways to do this work and like through like kind of gender bending and there were these times where gay men were knitting and it was kind of code for being gay like oh does he knit as a code for is he gay and like there's people who kind of can try on like the female gender in some ways through textile, through connection to textiles, or like feel connected to their mother, like men who then feel connected to their mother through textile work and like maybe embodying something their mother did, so they could be straight men, but that there's some way of like accessing something of the feminine within them. So I think there's something, and it's not well fleshed out for me, but I kind of always thought like, oh, that's like I'll earmark that, and that's kind of an interesting thing of like, in what ways does it allow access to different gender experiences than we maybe can have as easily in other parts of life. And maybe it's like kind of an accessible and like somewhat accessible and somewhat acceptable and accessible way to play with gender a bit more.
Oh, I love that. There was a part in the book that talked about there was some research study that you shared that those who like have a variety of traits that are sometimes ascribed to being masculine or sometimes feminine, but like have a balance of like both sides of the trait, that
Mhm.
they were like more well balanced in general, you know.
Yeah, that's
Or
Sandra
yeah.
Bem's work
Okay.
on androgyny. Yeah, that when we have both male and female traits, we're better, usually better adjusted people than when we're like extreme on either
Mhm.
end.
Yeah, very interesting. Well, if you write another book, I'll definitely be reading it. But take your time.
Yeah, I think I need to do just some quilting and knitting for a while and like not have a big writing project that chains
For
me to
sure.
my computer.
Alrighty. Let's see. What direction do I want to take this? Well, we have a few more minutes. Um, so you already mentioned that you are a knitter, that you quilt. I know that when I was reading this book, I wanted to like pick up more textile arts. Like it made me want to quilt. It made me want to learn how to weave. Those are a couple of things I've had on my radar, but I was really feeling the pull to like join those communities. Are there any crafts that you would want to learn like after your experience writing this book that you're like really motivated to like learn for yourself?
So I actually did try a bunch of different things while I was writing the book. I felt like it was important for me to just know the like tactile sensation of the different types of textile work that I was writing about and like have more of a felt sense for it and a more I would not say in-depth understanding because some things I really like kind of tried once or twice. And, so I definitely don't have an in-depth understanding, but at least I kind of know the mechanics of it, so that I could write about it in a more informed way and also see if like it brought up different things for me, which it definitely does. Like they kind of access different parts of you. And I've wondered, I think it's probably the case that people are drawn to the textile craft that they like learned in their family or that was done around them. But for people who like come to it like I did in my 20s, I wonder if there's like some, difference in the type of person who's like compelled to knit versus weave versus spin versus quilt or something.
Yeah.
Like what is it that like grabs them? So I've been interested in that too, just kind of the subtle differences between these mediums. But so I did try embroidery, which I had never really done much of, and cross stitch. I tried weaving a little bit. That's one that I like really just dipped my toe into. Same with spinning, dipped my toe in. Have not really done much, but I would like to learn more about both of those. I did learn how to crochet, and I love crocheting now. It's like not, it doesn't like replace knitting by any means for me, but it's a nice um, adjunctive thing to have
Yeah.
going. And I've made a few blankets and my daughter got really into crochet. So she's like, sorry, mom, I think crochet is better. And so she's like off to the races with crochet, which I'm thrilled about. And then I've gotten really into quilting, which surprised me. And I really have long admired quilters and kind of always wanted to be a quilter. And maybe in some sense, like didn't think I had what it took because I think it is more mathematical and like requires more like ability to like mentally rotate shapes and things. And I don't feel like that's a strong suit for me, but I'm learning and I'm really enjoying it. I've gotten really into it. So yeah, I want to keep going with all of these things. I definitely have plans to do some more spinning and weaving, and I just got gifted a little Cricut loom for me and my kids have been playing with it a little bit. And I think my daughter knows how to work it better than I do now, so she might need to teach me.
That is so fun. And to be able to share that with your daughter too. My daughter is 5, so she's a little too little to actually do stuff. She'll like play with my knitting needles and say she's knitting, but she can't make anything yet. But I think it's so cool to be able to share that like in your own like family community
Yeah.
too. Very
Yeah,
cool.
and my son has gotten into spinning. He really likes
Oh,
spinning. So that's his thing now.
that is
Yeah,
so
it's really
fun.
great. My husband's the only one who doesn't do any textile craft. And my kids are like, Dad, you've got to do something. They're been trying to get him to do a wooble.
Well, I hope that he gets broken down and will join the party.
I hope so too.
Alicia also was asking about, in all your research and coming across interesting places, museums, libraries, are there any that would be interesting to people who are into the textile arts? I know that you mentioned Gee's Bend. I don't know how to
Gee's
pronounce.
Bend. Yeah, I
How
mean
was it
that's
pronounced?
Gee's Bend.
Bend. That play, it sounded so cool. Like I want to go. I've never wanted to go to Alabama before, but I want to go now.
Yeah,
Any
yeah.
other places that you feel like would be a really cool place to visit for someone who's really loving the textile arts?
Yeah, so just since you mentioned museums related to that Tatter Textile Library in Brooklyn, which is just, 20 minutes from where I live. So I'm very lucky. They're an incredible resource and have an amazing library of all textile related books, pattern books, history books. It's just incredible. And then they also have a lot of artifacts, beautiful textiles and like little knitted swatches of like all different types of knitting patterns. Um, Along with like little notes by the people who made the swatches and sent them in, just like really beautiful touches. And they do classes both online and in person. So they're an incredible textile resource. And then I mean, gosh, like if you can go to Peru and see the beautiful weaving, and not just Peru, there's amazing weaving in Central America and throughout South America as well. But Peru was a really special place to visit and to see these traditions kind of in some cases unbroken in a family for like maybe 500, 600 years, maybe more. I don't even, it's like at some point you can't even know for sure. But yeah, I mean, there's been some moving away from traditional textile practices even there, and efforts to revive them, which I write about in the book. But there are people there that just, they learned from their mother, who learned from their mother and their mother and their mother, like going back to like the 1500s, as far as they know. So yeah, that was really incredible. And then there are more and more there are textile collections in major museums all over. Like the quilts of Gee's Bend are in museum collections, and you can see amazing textile works at museums all over. So highly recommend checking that out. And I'm so glad that textile art is being much more acknowledged and appreciated as a form of art.
Mhm. That's awesome. My local Museum of Art had a like a quilt exhibit not too long ago, but it was mostly local artists, which is really cool.
That's
Um,
cool.
so that just reminds me like it's more common than we think. Like if we go looking for it, like I think we can find a
Exactly.
lot more examples of, exhibits and different things like that. Very cool. Well, we don't have too much longer left, just a couple minutes. So, just one last question for you. What do you hope readers will take away from reading your book?
I hope that I hope that readers who practice textile arts will maybe look at the meaning that it has for them more deeply. I was always surprised by people I would talk to that would be like, oh yeah, like I knit, but like it's no big deal. I'm not like a creative person or anything. I just make baby hats or something for like a local hospital, like a NICU or something. And I'm like, well, that's like that's not no big deal, I feel like a lot of people are dismissive of their textile work because I think it unfortunately historically has been somewhat dismissed
Mhm.
and overlooked, or it's been so ubiquitous at times that people are just like, oh yeah, that's just what everybody does, it's nothing special. Um, but it is. It's something incredible. And so I hope that people who do this work kind of honor like how meaningful it is to do for themselves. And then I hope that people who maybe aren't as familiar with textile work or don't have their own practice see this work in a more meaningful light and recognize the value and the artistry and the skill and the intellectual abilities required for this work and everything, and appreciate the people who do this work and the women throughout history who have gone kind of unacknowledged for so long, and recognize that, they were doing important, valuable work, supporting their communities, but also maybe like doing something personally meaningful for them and to see them as human, right? And see them as people who like were fulfilling certain needs within themselves, who were processing emotions through this work, or who were, staying up late, figuring out a great way to use up these fabric pieces in a beautiful arrangement for their quilt,
Mm.
like these are people that had ideas, that had, passions, that developed skills and everything, and to see women in their full humanity.
I love that. That, like, in hopefully finding more meaning for themselves that they can, that then extrapolates to all people who have participated in the textile arts throughout history and time. Yeah,
Yes.
I love that. Um, well, and with that, I just wanted to share a couple quotes from the book that were really meaningful to me, and I feel like are kind of connected with that thought. So, towards the beginning in the book, you said it is with thread that women wrote. And in your epilogue, you shared a quote from Angela Maddock where she stated, some things are beyond words, but not beyond making. And I think that's just really beautiful to think about the power of the textile arts and the beauty and meaning behind them. Yeah, for us as individuals, for us as a community, as fiber artists or textile artists, and just the world as a whole and the impact that the textile arts have had. So thank you so much for writing this book. Like I said, I really love reading it. I was very impressed by the research of it, and it makes me want to like dive more into the history of the textile arts and learn about like more significant impacts that the textile arts have had throughout
Yeah,
history.
there's
Because like you
so
just
much
barely
out
touched the
there.
surface, and it just
Yeah,
makes me want to dive right in. So thank you
good.
so much, and thank you also for joining me for this little discussion. Do you have any other like final thoughts you want to share?
No, I just appreciate being asked to do this. I love talking to people who are interested in this or practice textile arts and feel as passionate about them as I do. So it's wonderful to get to talk to people who feel that way.
Yeah, well, thank you again. And thank you for those of you who have joined in the chat for your questions, comments, and I hope you also love the book like I did. So, thank you again.
Thank you.